when I first watched this, I thought maybe he was just like nervous and like he was just, his brain was doing that. But then it's like, no, maybe there's some connection between all of these kids. Maybe they're connected on a deeper level. Welcome back to episode 2 of Heavenly Delusion. If you have not watched my review of episode 1, highly recommend watching that, or at least watching episode 2 of Heavenly Delusion, because there will be spoilers in this episode. So without further ado, or with that being said, let's get on started. So I wanted to talk about this aspect right here. So if you're aware that in episode 1, where I ended it off, we find out that there's these creatures in this world. They're called Maneaters, and the Maneaters come out and they'll eat people or they'll kill people. Like, they basically do exactly what they said. And you come to find out that this creature is her son. Well, kind of. It's more of like, this creature ate her son, and I talked about that in the last video as well too. But it's just like, if there's no threat, there's no reason to kill it, is what she ends up saying. And then she's like, oh, thank you, you two, they understand. Which, this is something that I also want to touch on, is sometimes the monsters, like, yes, you can become friends with your monsters. Also, sometimes you need to let your monsters go in a certain sense, or you can just become a writer because it's like, oh, they can't communicate. That's kind of cool that they can do that. She's like, see, like, look at this. And then all of a sudden, this thing happens. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess not. And this is where you see, like, the man-eating part, because, like, it ends up, like, grabbing all the parts that are chopped up and consuming those. And he gets upset. He's like, damn it, did you see that? And it's just like, and the girl, she's like, the whip only swings one direction. And it's just like, what? Bro, like, no, like, literally a person just died in front of us. Like, what are you talking about? How can you say something like that when somebody just died? And then that's why it's just like, this is the key moment, and this is what I noticed myself personally, because I've been having a lot of these things a lot lately, and I would instead let my emotions overwhelm me. But I've come to realize is, like, sometimes you still have to do, like, what's required, even if it's painful, because, like, as soon as he says, like, someone just died, how can you think something like that? You see the tear drop out of her eye. And as soon as you see that, it's just like, okay, well, if we don't face off this monster and, like, take out the monster, it's just like, we won't survive. Or if I don't do this, we won't survive. And, like, the monster just ends up taking it, and it's just like, oh, okay, my bad. Sorry about that. Like, I didn't mean to. And she's like, wait, huh? Oh, okay. Like, he's actually way more mature than he thought, just as much as she's way more mature than he thought as well, too. Because, like, sometimes he imagined her being, like, this just unempathetic type of person, when in actuality, she was just doing what she had to do to be able to get the job done. These are things that I've had to come to as well, too, is, like, the emotions, the crying, the weeping, all of that. Like, that's great. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place for it. However, it doesn't really move you forward. It doesn't really move you in the direction that you need to be moving in. Like, it almost paralyzes you. At least it's paralyzed me. And that's why, like, I like what she ended up saying was, like, we just had to take care of this. And he's like, all right, got it. Like, as soon as he saw the emotions and that she was sad for the thing that did end up just happening, he's like, all right, I'll kill it. Like, it's already done. And this is where it's just like, I like the whole animation. Touched on this in the last episode as well, too. Seeing him do what he does to be able to, like, reach inside. And this is something that I've also come to realize, you may or may not understand this or believe this, but I believe this to be true. It's like, we have the ability to reach inside of others and change them in a significant, impactful way, kind of like he does right here. Sometimes you can do it through a touch. Like, you don't necessarily have to do it through a touch. Like, I'm hopefully doing this through the video right now, where I'm just sharing what I have to share, and I know that it's touching you in a ways that it needs to be touched in. I'm not here to try and, like, kill you by any means. Like, that's not what I want to do. Like, I just want to inspire you to go live your life. But there's energies that he has this gift to be able to reach into these other creatures, which I know you can develop this gift as well too. Like, maybe there's something that you touch and, like, you feel it. Like, maybe you go on hikes or walks, like I've done. Like, I've gone out into nature several times, and, like, I've just, like, touched a tree, and I'm like, I just feel the energy of that said tree in that given moment, which is fantastic. And I did touch on this in the last video that I ended up doing around this battery. Like, at the bottom, you could see that there's, like, 4 little dots. And on the charger too, you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little bars, because this battery gives the option to have 4 shots out of her little railgun that you see. Like, in this scene right here, when, like, she shoots it, she has actually a pretty good shot, and she takes the shot. Like, the colors as well too. Obviously, they're still freaking out, and it's good to still freak out, even though, like, you can be like, oh no, like, I'm afraid, I don't want to go here and do this, that thing. But it's just like, dude, even if you're afraid, any sort of action is better than no action. That's the key aspect of what I want you to remember. And after them leaving, it's just like, you want the batteries, because she gave the batteries to the innkeeper or the manager, and she's like, you want to take them? I don't know what batteries mean in this world. There's a lot of open loops. An open loop is just like a finished like loop based, an unfinished loop. So like makes you want to keep watching, which is a great way for these artists and the creator of this anime to be able to have the success that they have, which I think that's pretty neat. So it's like, didn't you give them to the manager? And she's like, hey, stop that. Like, she sees a little look on him, and like it's just like, oh, okay, you really do the right thing. Even though the manager's not around, it's like you still gave it to him. If you give something to somebody, you don't have to take it away. Like, that's just my little take on it. If you're promising something to somebody, you don't have to take it away. And that's actually something that I just realized as well too, is because, so it's just like right here, and I'm going to go back to the part, but it's like, didn't you give them to the manager? And that's where she sees it, and she's like, huh, oh yeah, I guess that's right. Because in the beginning of this episode, you see that like this guy or girl, I still don't know what it is, but like to me, I always thought that this was a guy, because later in the episode, he ends up talking about how like he has to end up finding, like, it's right here. So it's like, I was told to inject him with this drug when I find him. So that's why I always thought that he was a he, but apparently I think he is a she. I'll explain that in later episodes in the series, but I just wanted to touch on that really for a brief second. But this is where that drawing from the first episode that I brought in, where it's just like, hey, this is a drawing, and then it's just like, hey, give it here. Why? He gave it to me, and it's just like, Kona promised to give it to me, and it's just like, well, no fair, you get them all, yada yada yada, whatever it may be. And then he ends up coming over here, and he's just like, hey, what's that for? Why did you give it to Cuckoo? And it's just like, you promised me. And then she, I don't know what it, I still don't know. You let me know down in the comments. Gets all sad, and then it's just like, I'll draw the next one for you. And then you get to see him being all like happy and excited about like all the drawings and paintings that she Tokyo ended up getting. And like this drawing is going to become important later, and I'm pretty sure this drawing does as well too, and this one. We'll touch on that in later episodes, so you can subscribe so that you don't miss out on another video like that. This one I don't think we ever saw, at least not yet. This one, no, either, or that one, but like this one we do. This one we kind of do, but not really. I don't know. This is the main one that comes up later, but you'll see what I mean in later episodes. But that's where I'm just kind of confused, and I guess realize and recognize that he is kind of like the kid at the beginning that I was talking about needs to be injected by her, because when he says that, it's just like, well, you gave it to her, so like that person gets to keep it regardless. And that's where there's that little mishap and miscommunication, where it's just like, well, you promised me this drawing, and then you gave it to this other girl instead. And it's just like, well, okay, that's not very nice. Like, I don't like that. I wanted the drawing. So sometimes you need to stay true to your word. I mean, not even sometimes. Always stay true to your word with whatever you say you're going to do. You end up doing it. And that's just a key aspect that I've been able to come to. And then this is the part that trips me out a little bit, is like, we don't know what's behind this door. We kind of find out a little bit later, but not really. There's just so many open loops. And then like this little machine, he ends up like wanting to climb up on this tower, which is pretty neat. But then once he falls down, like, and dude, he falls from such a big height. Like, so if we watch this really quick, He falls down like from such a large height. Everybody's freaking out, yada, yada, yada. Smashes on the ground. It's like, you think that he would die or whatever it is. But then he's like, nope, I'm good. That was weird. Like, that kind of hurt. And then he right here is the one that ends up like getting a bloody nose. And it's like, well, what is going on? Like, when I first watched this, I thought maybe he was just like nervous and like he was just, his brain was doing that. But then it's like, no, maybe there's some connection between all of these kids. Maybe they're connected on a deeper level than we know. And that's why it's just like, why is Shihiro the one bleeding? It's like, I don't know why he is, but he is. And they're always just looking for heaven, because heaven is like the main goal for each and every single one of them. There's this disease, which this disease is also, so like this disease right here that you see is the same disease that can be seen at the beginning of the episode with this other little boy. Like, you can see like it has the same similar rash right there. And then you see it again with this lady right here. It's like the same disease, and yet like this one, apparently, if from the last episode, like apparently this is hell and the other one's heaven, and yet the diseases are one and the same. So it's like, how does that work? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But what are you gonna do? You can't really change that all that much, other than just like moving forward and realizing that maybe the story will talk about it later. But from my take so far, it seems like it's just another open loop, which gets me to keep watching. And then this random guy, he comes in trying to be like, oh, hey, you're so-and-so. And it's like, wait, hold on, what? I'm not this person. And she's like, you got the wrong idea. Look, I still have a photo of you. And she's like, how long it's been since you disappeared? Five years, no worries. And like the other guy takes a photo and it's like, wait, hold on, that is a trip. Like it is the same person, just with a little bit different hairstyle and haircut. And she's like, that's not her. But wait, like they find this little logo, and this logo ends up bringing them down this different path because the logo's on the railgun, basically. And they see that, so like, oh, okay, maybe this is like going to be a clue to like how we can find heaven, because like it's all a mystery on the journey that we end up going on. And it's like they found out that there was a ship to be able to get them back to Tokyo, so they end up going back on the ship. He ends up confessing his love to her, and this is what I'm going to be talking about in the next episode, which will be coming out tomorrow morning. So you'll make sure that you want to watch that one. But it's just like he ends up talking about these things, and it's just like, I'm so sorry, because he ends up forcing himself on her, which never do that. I have another video on the channel called Spot the Difference or something like that. Highly recommend watching that to make sure that if you are talking to women, like you do it in the correct way and you aren't doing it in a forceful way. So it's just like, that's where it's just like, it might sound crazy, but I'm serious. So I want you to understand my body is a woman, but in here, my mind is a man. And at first when I heard this, I was like, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but this is just my take, because I feel like a lot of people have this notion that like, at least people in this community, I don't know, I've tried to understand, I've tried to do my best with it, but it's just like, it seemed like they were just trying to get attention as everybody else is, because they wanted to feel accepted. But I just didn't like how it's just like, oh, my mind is a man. Like, I don't believe that there are mistakes in this world. There's only opportunities. So that's where he's just like, this is kind of confused. Like, wait, what do you mean? So I'm a man. It's just like, no, you're a woman. It's like, but she's like, no, I'm a man. It's just like, no, you're a woman. And it's just it's a different concept that I didn't really understand or realize. So like after hearing that, I was like, well, I want to know more about this. So then I ended up going on to the next episode, which you can check out the next episode tomorrow if you're watching this on the day that it was posted. If not, you can just go watch the next video right after watching the end of this video. So with that being said, let me know your guys' thoughts and comments and ideas on episode 2 of Heavenly Delusion. Like, is there a lot of open loops? Did I cover everything? Did I miss some things? Like, are there other things that you'd like to see? I just like the foreshadowing that happens at the beginning of this series, where it's just like you see the kids here with like the disease that you see later, and then you also see like somebody not keeping their promise and taking it back, and then you see that and that exact same thing happen like later. So it's just like, what if there's this other world that exists and they're happening like before us in heaven, and then like we're just replaying those said things like in this other apocalyptic place? Like, who knows? There's no way to really know other than your own true experience. And I just want to inspire you to maybe look at the world in a little bit of a different manner and be able to stand up for the things that you do matter and do matter in your life, and realize that sometimes it's okay, not even sometimes, it's okay to show your emotions and your vulnerabilities in the face of a battle, because that's going to be the only way that you can ever grow. And by being able to realize that you can touch people on the inside in more meaningful ways than you ever imagined, you'll start to be able to have a bigger impact on the world than you ever imagined in the first place. So with that being said, appreciate you making it to the end of the video, and I'll catch you in tomorrow's video. Talk soon.